There are tons of books and instructional videos on pool, most of which are great and they teach a lot of the technical side of the game. However, there's one book that has helped me more than any other when it comes to shooting consistently and improving my confidence in my own game. After reading this book, making shots started to feel effortless and I could add more spin to the cue ball than ever before. Or, even more importantly, I could add the correct amount of spin without even trying and almost always get perfect shape. Without even putting in any additional effort, my stroke felt a lot more natural and longer. I had more trust in myself to make shots, break out balls, and get perfect cue ball position. Now, I'm not going to make you wait to find out what this miracle book is. The book that made me better at pool is none other than The Inner Game of Tennis by W. Timothy Gallwey. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But yep, the best book to improve your pool game isn't even about pool. It's about tennis. I'd go so far to say that everyone competing in any sport should read this book. That's how much of an impact it had on me. And I wanted to share my key takeaways to hopefully convince you to pick up and read the book yourself. Honestly, this book changed my game for the better, and it can do the same for you. Also, spoilers. This is an informational book, so I don't really know if there are spoilers, but spoilers. The main concept of the book is that there are two selves. Self 1, which is the conscious mind that instructs and judges, and then there is Self 2, which is the body or the self that actually does the action. Now, most people, including myself, have a lot of input from Self 1. Self 1 loves to tell yourself if you're doing well because it wants all the credit, but more so it loves to tell you what you're doing bad or what you're doing wrong or what you need to work on because it thinks that being critical will cause Self 2, the body, to act better. So in pool, Self 1 would say like, oh, you're not stroking it well enough, or you're aiming wrong, or you're terrible at this game, thinking that after saying those terrible things, you're going to start to make balls and get the correct cue ball position. However, that never seems to really work. As Self 1 continues to criticize Self 2 will become uncertain, scared, timid, and tight, which will likely lead to a miss or poor cue ball position. And then Self 1 will get angry, upset, emotional, which will then make Self 1 think that Self 1 needs to try even harder to make things work, which will lead to more criticism, more emotion, which will then make Self 2 perform even worse overall, and that leads Self 1 into self-condemnation. It's a vicious cycle that starts from Self 1 thinking that it has complete control. So if instructions from Self 1 doesn't work, what are you supposed to do? If you want to perform at your physical best, you actually have to quiet down Self 1. So that way Self 1 gets out of the way and Self 2 can do what Self 2 knows how to do. And I think that this is the most powerful idea in this book. Self 2 is actually very smart and very capable. Any physical action you have ever done before, like making a difficult shot or applying a certain action to the cue ball, Self 2 is capable of doing again, again, and again. Because despite not being quote-unquote the mind, Self 2 still has an incredible memory and has internalized the shots you've taken in your pool game, but also any of the pool shots that you've seen. When it's uninhibited, Self 2 can use all of its knowledge to somehow make shots you never thought you could do and get you perfect position because Self 2 knows the exact speed and spin to apply. When Self 2 takes over, it's often referred to as being in the zone. The unfortunate reality, though, is you can't force Self 2 into the zone. The only thing you can do is create an internal environment that will increase the odds of Self 2 making an appearance and hopefully taking over. And the environment that Self 2 likes to perform in is when Self 1 steps out of the way. Luckily, there is a strategy to get Self 1 to quiet down and step out of the way. And the main way to quiet Self 1 is to train it to be an impartial observer rather than a judge. And this can be difficult because Self 1 loves to be a judge. And by being a judge, I mean attributing positive or negative emotion to an outcome. Self 1 loves to say if you miss a ball, it's bad, and if you make a ball, it's good. However, in order to make Self 2 appear, Self 1 needs to not say missing or making a ball is good or bad. It just is. If Self 1 continues to judge and criticize Self 2, it'll lead to a vicious downward spiral as explained earlier. And calling a shot good is also a form of judging because it implies that if the shot didn't go as planned, it would be bad. Self 1 needs to step aside. And I've experienced Self 1 stepping aside. I know what it feels like. When I've been shooting, instead of calculating exactly how hard I need to hit a ball, I've hit tons of balls in my life. So my body has gained a bunch of experience and knowledge about, hitting balls and how hard I'm going to basically need to hit something in order to get obviously the object ball to make it into the pocket, but to get the cue ball where I want it to go next. And despite thinking that I should calculate the exact force that I need in my mind, my body can actually feel it quite well. So when I focus on the cue ball just getting to an exact point, without me calculating any speed, my body knows exactly how hard to hit the ball to get it where it needs to go. When I'm not focused on thinking about how hard to hit it, but rather where the cue ball needs to go, my body just naturally hits with the correct force and provides the correct stroke with the correct amount of English to get the cue ball there. It's mind blowing. If I was focusing on the specific speed, I'd be thinking so much on the speed that I'd probably hit too hard or too soft because I was scared or I'd miss. And this is also true for making shots. When I just trust my process of making a ball, the balls fly in. When I really, really, really try to make a ball, that's when I get tight, nervous, and scared, and I end up missing. My body knows how to make balls and how to get position. I just need to give it the opportunity to do that. And this book solidified my confidence in myself to do that. Now, you might be thinking, I haven't hit a bunch of pool balls in my life. My body, myself too, doesn't have that bank of knowledge to pull from to just miraculously make a shot. Well, the book also goes over the process of learning without judging or criticizing. Self 2 learns in two ways, by watching and by repetition. Not by hearing technical words, not by in-depth descriptions, and not by criticizing. By seeing and being aware is the natural process for Self 2 to learn. This is how babies learn how to walk. They don't speak, they don't learn technical balancing maneuvers from walking. They just see people walking and they can do it. I mean, even animals teach their young how to swim and fly this way. The parents show, the babies watch, and they repeat until they can do it. This way of learning is ingrained in most of animal life, and it's ingrained in you as well. I mean, the phrase monkey see, monkey do, it exists for a reason. If you want to learn how to put a good stroke on the cue ball, don't get mad at yourself because you're not pushing the cue forward far enough or that you're not dropping your elbow. Rather, watch a professional pool player with a great stroke that you want to emulate. Watch their stroke over and over again until you have a great picture of their movements in your mind. And then, when you get on the table, just focus on imitating them to the best of your abilities. Just see a picture of them in your mind and try and recreate that. I think you'd be surprised at how easily your body is able to recreate those actions. Again, don't focus on getting a better stroke. Focus on imitating the pool player. And this works for me. I once took a lesson from Mika Immonen, who's a 9-ball world champion player. And he was trying to get me to have a longer stroke. And while I was practicing with him, I was focusing over and over and over again on lengthening my stroke. And either I wouldn't lengthen my stroke, or if I did drop my elbow and lengthen my stroke, it would not be straight and I would miss wildly. Now, I thought that, I'm going to be a great student and after this lesson, I'm going to go practice and I'm going to do this shot over and over again so that way I can drop my elbow and lengthen my stroke. And I'm going to put an amazing amount of action on the cue ball. Well, I kept telling myself over and over and over again to lengthen my stroke and getting mad at myself, and ultimately it never worked. Then I was lamenting to a pool player friend who's better than me, who was telling me I need to let my stroke out, and I was like, listen, man, I just can't do it. Watch. And I went down to shoot a ball, and when I went down to shoot, I said, in my mind, I didn't say anything, I just had a picture of Mika Immonen stroking through a ball. And when I went to prove my friend wrong that I couldn't stroke through and drop my elbow to give myself a long stroke, I hit probably the purest, best pool shot I have in my entire life. The balls were set up all the way across the table straight. I hit it with bottom so that the cue ball would draw, and the cue ball drew back 8 feet across the entire table straight, end over end, bounced off the end rail, and rolled an extra foot or two. I drew the ball 9 feet. Perfectly straight. That has never happened. And that only happened when I stopped focusing on stroking the ball perfectly and rather imitating somebody whose stroke that I've seen before that I knew was great. Now, the book does bring up a cheeky way to put you in the headspace to learn new techniques quicker and better, and that's to pretend that you're in a movie, you're an actor, and you're playing the world's best pool player, basketball player, tennis player, whatever sport you're trying to improve at. Don't stroke how you would stroke how the best player in the world would stroke. If you've watched pro pool or pro anything, surprisingly, your body will naturally be able to recreate that stroke that you're looking for. Now, no matter how much I like this book, it is still about tennis, and tennis happens super quickly. If a pro is serving at you, you have less than a second to react to return a ball. Any type of thinking would prevent you from reacting quick enough to return a serve properly. Now, that's not the same in pool because the balls are sitting still. And not even that, if you want to win a pool match, you constantly have to be thinking because you have to make the correct decisions based on your layout on which shot to take next or which path you want to take in order to give yourself the best opportunity to win. So how do you trust self 2 if you have to use self 1 to make decisions? To play the best pool, you should have a routine, and the first part of that routine should be making a decision. And this is where self 1 can shine, because self 1 can be used to figure out which ball should be shot, or what path should be taken, where the cue ball should end up, so that way you have an opportunity to make your next ball. However, once you make that decision, and I know decisions can be hard, you can get better at making decisions as you play more pool and as you're critical of your decision-making process to find out what is or is not the correct way or option to take. But once that decision is made, it's time to let self 1 step out of the way and say, this is all for self 2 now. I have made my decision. I know what I want to happen. Self 2, make this happen. And self 2 will make it happen. Once you get down on the shot, it's all self 2. Just focus on the spot you want the cue ball to go, where you're aiming, and self 2 will get it there, while also making your ball. It's a balance act for sure, but it does wonders when you let self 2 take over after self 1 has made a decision. Plus, self 1 feels good because it still contributes, and it also builds confidence knowing that trusting self 2 leads to desired results. The first half of the book goes over the relationship between self 1 and self 2 and how to help self 2 make an appearance to get into the zone. And honestly, this is the most impactful part of the book for myself. The latter half of the book goes in more depth into how to change habits, the metagames people play while playing sports, and even the meaning of competition itself. And I don't want to go over all of this because I feel like I've rambled enough. However, hopefully this gives you enough curiosity to check out the book yourself. It's done wonders for me, and I'm sure it'll help you too. I've put a link in the description for the book on Amazon. However, I always recommend getting a library card if you want to read the book for free. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you're listening to, or if you found it helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of the book in the comments, or let me know of any other books that you've read that you found helpful in your pool journey as well. Until next time, keep taking your hobbies too seriously.